So, good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the Moose Jaw Genealogical Society, I'd like to welcome everyone. And I'm happy to see so many of you joining with us tonight to listen to this very interesting presentation. So, my name is Marge Cleve, and I'm the president of the Moose Jaw branch. To begin with, I'd like to thank Deanne Cairns and SGS for letting us use their Zoom tonight. And this presentation is also being recorded. Zach's presentation tonight will be about 45, 50 minutes. If you have any questions, you can certainly ask him as we're going along, or you can type them in the chat or ask him after his presentation. So for now, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker. Zach Dunn is a 26-year-old Canadian filmmaker from Toronto. And since 2021, he has traveled across Canada and the United States, interviewing more than 160 veterans from 18 allied countries for his project, Global Veteran Stories. Zach sits down with veterans from all over the world, in person or on Zoom, and through filmed interviews, Zach hopes to preserve as many of the firsthand stories of World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, and other veterans for the next generation to learn about before they're lost forever. His work has been featured by CBC, CTV, CHCH News, Legion Magazine, Military.com, and numerous community newspapers and radio programs across Canada. Zach donates all his video footage and all these interviews to schools, museums, other non-for-profit organizations, as well as posts all these interviews on social media for free. His goal is to save as many stories as he can. Welcome, Zach, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Marge, for that incredible introduction. And thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for this opportunity to not only share my story, but share all of the incredible veteran stories that I've been able to capture over the last, five plus years now. Again, what we'll be kind of going through is I'll show you various pictures, videos actually of the veterans speaking of their stories. And again, all of these videos are posted on my website as well as on YouTube and whatever social media platform you use for free so people can learn and enjoy their stories. But to start out, I just kind of want to, start out by saying, how did this idea come about? For myself, where did this, kind of global veteran stories idea come from? I'm going to share my screen here and tell you exactly how it all came about, and hopefully everyone can see that photo there. So this is a photo of me in 2003. I was about 3.5, and this gentleman right here is my granddad.
I don't see your screen.
You don't see my screen there? It might take another second to load. Hopefully everyone can see it in the next couple seconds here.
Yeah, I have it there.
I still don't have it.
I think we were saying here in Toronto, I have some faster internet, so maybe that's the case.
No, I have it.
You have it.
Well, maybe do a quick thumbs up on everyone's screen if everyone can see the photo. Hopefully we'll be sharing a couple. So okay, we got a couple thumbs up there. Yep. Okay, amazing. Yeah. But basically this is me and my granddad. So how this idea started for this project is in 2021 I was going cleaning out my parents' basement and going through some old boxes, some old pictures and photo albums. And I came across this photo. And then I came across another photo. And then a few other ones as well. And I came to find out that it was all of my granddad in uniform with his cap, his, badges and medals and whatnot. And I ran upstairs and I told my mom, I said, well, is this granddad? Was he a veteran? He said, yes, he was. Came to find out that he served in World War II. Found out more information. He was a paratrooper in the British Airborne, but he never talked about his story. He joined up right in 1939, right when Poland was invaded by Germany and the Soviet Union, and joined up right after his 18th birthday. He was born in 1921. So by the time I was born, I was the 20th grandchild. So I got quite a big family. But I thought to myself after, asking my mom, who was the youngest of 8, why didn't he tell his story? Why am I just coming to find out about this now, sort of at random? And my mom said, well, he had a really hard time during the war. He lost a lot of good mates, and he was in Africa, he was in France and Germany, and went through all 6 years, and it was very hard for him to talk about. And I kind of thought to myself, well, he would have been 100 years old this year. Is there other veterans that are the same age as my granddad, or maybe a little bit younger, or even older, that maybe I can talk to share their story, or even just talk to them in general. So I had this idea in early 2021, and then as the months go by, Remembrance Day happens. And a lot of the legions and newspaper articles are posting different photos and whatnot of veterans. And I came across a video of a World War II veteran, and I'll put his photo on the screen again here. And he shared this incredible story. The video clip was only about maybe 20 or 40 seconds. And his name is Arnold Graham. He's from Lakefield, Ontario. And again, the youngest of 12 children. And he said, I joined up at 17 years old. I asked my mother's permission to join the Royal Canadian Air Force because I wanted to get my brothers home sooner. He already had 6 brothers serving overseas by the time he joined in 1943. And I reached out to the newspaper reporter and said, I need to hear his story. I need to ask him a question. I just want to meet him and shake his hand. So I connected with the newspaper reporter, sat down with a veteran, again, Arnold Graham, for about 45 minutes. And I said, well, I got to film this. I want to share it with, my girlfriend at the time, my family, my friends. So I brought my simple iPhone and a $20 Amazon tripod that I bought. And I sat down for 45 minutes. He told this incredible story. He was a mid-upper gunner on a Wellington and Lancaster bomber. And he did over 20 missions flying over Germany in this turret that you see on the screen here. And this is Arnold right here. So you imagine this, 17, 18-year-old who asked his mother's consent to join, who already had his brothers already in the service. And selfishly, he said, I need to go too. I need to share and get them home sooner. So here his crew right here. Arnold is right on the right hand side, and he obviously is the youngest one here. His pilot was in his 24th year. His other navigator was 22. So Arnold, being the 18, 19-year-old, was the kid. And this is Arnold when he joined up. So I sat down with him and had this an incredible interview, but I really want you to hear from Arnold, because unfortunately he just passed away about a year ago in his 100th year. But I have his full interview. I obviously posted on my YouTube channel, but I want you guys to hear at least a couple seconds or a 30-second clip from Arnold himself, who was my first interview. So I'll pull up my screen here in just a second. Oh, got a little bit of an ad playing here. All righty. And if there's any questions, I'll pause throughout. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer them throughout. We don't have to wait till after if you guys like. Oh, sorry about that. having some difficulties on my side here. Okay, there we go. All righty. And I'll turn the volume up so hopefully everyone can hear it, and I'll start playing it now. So this is World War II veteran Arnold Graham.
Okay, some people aren't seeing your screen, Zach.
Oh, is it not? Sound's not playing?
Yeah, it's not playing.
Oh, okay, let
And
me try.
they're not seeing it either.
Oh, we're not seeing it either. Shoot.
Um, whatever.
I
The
can
sound
see
is
it and
working
hear it.
fine. Working fine out here. I can hear it and see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a couple
Okay.
people can.
Yeah, and a couple of people can't, so.
Oh,
Why
I see.
can't you show me?
We got a couple in chat that couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is any videos that I play, if you guys can't see them during my talk, I'll make sure to put every single link in the chat so you guys can watch them as well, after. But I'll keep playing it for the people that can see it.
Yeah.
So I'll pause the video there. But this, as a 21-year-old, this interview kind of changed my life, to be honest with you. After that was only, most of that interview clip that you saw was very, very uncut. Obviously there's a couple archive footage and a couple voiceovers, but again, for the most part, this is directly what Arnold saw, what Arnold experienced in, his first couple weeks overseas. This, first interview inspired me. I said, well, I got to meet one more. I have to meet, any other veterans who want to be able to share their story. My next interview was actually a female World War II veteran. She worked in England. She worked in the mailroom, and her father, as well as her late husband, served on D-Day. So I was the very first person to be able to open up and share her experiences during the war. And then second interview turned to the third interview, turned to the fourth interview. And now, again, we're over at 160 veterans. So I started making these trips, these planned trips throughout Ontario. Again, I lived in Port Perry at the time, just outside of Durham region in Ontario here, and just started calling around to the legions and saying, hey, this is what I'm interested in doing. I'm interested in talking to veterans. I want to be able to learn their stories. I want to be able to share their stories. And again, created a YouTube channel and started to, again, talk to more and more. And as I did that, more legions and more organizations started to reach out and say, actually, you know what? I think one of our members is a veteran. One of our family members, members are a veteran. And it just started to grow and grow. I started doing maybe one interview every month. Then it started to be one interview a week. And now I'm doing probably 2 or 3 every single week. So I've been very, very lucky, very blessed to be able to meet and again and interview so many incredible veterans across Ontario. And the project originally was called Remembering Canada's Veterans, where I would only, again, speak to veterans that, were in Canada, that served, with the Canadian Force in some regards. But then I started to notice, well, he served, in the US, he served for, the US Navy or the US Air Force. So I started interviewing some American veterans. And then because of my granddad obviously was born in England, I started to interview some British veterans. And again, the stories kept building from there. One country turned to 2, turned to 3, and I was able to travel just outside of Guelph, Ontario, to meet a female World War II veteran by the name of Sietske Drijber. And she, again, was born in Holland, in the Netherlands. She joined up at 24 years old, so a little bit later in the war, and she was actually sent all the way to the Dutch East Indies in Asia. She had this incredible story of reviewing Allied planes. She would look at different bullet holes and marks and be able to look at maps throughout, again, the Pacific Theater, and provide this feedback to the airmen who would be doing certain bombing missions in the Pacific. And again, a story that came from an elementary school teacher for over 50 years in a small town in southeastern Ontario that has never shared her story. And I interviewed her one day before her 103rd birthday. So she was one of the oldest veterans I met, at that time, and incredible. And she was only a couple months away from her 104th birthday before she passed away. And again, Sietske Drijber was her name. Just an incredible woman. Always a smile on her face, and had an amazing laugh. And I want to pull up that photo here if I have one of her. And again, this was through a connection through a legion. I was telling the the Legion president a little bit about what I was doing. And she set up the whole interview. We went to her house and sat down with her for about an hour or so. And if you can see my screen here, that's Sietske Driver right there. And she was born one day before, her birthday is one day before my wife, actually. So it was so funny to see that kind of connection there, and you know, their birthdays being so close together. So Sietske Driver was amazing. But then again, the story and the veterans kind of kept coming. I did my first TV interview, which was incredibly nerve-wracking for me. I'm used to being behind the camera and having the attention, you know, on the veterans or on whoever I'm kind of talking to. So, but CBC News Toronto ended up coming to my house or at my condo rather in Toronto, and again doing this incredible interview. We had maybe 2 or 3 cameras all sort of around me and microphones, and I was so nervous. Usually what they do is they say, okay, Zach, we're going to put a microphone on you just to test the audio. And they say, all we want you to do is spell your first and last name and just say it. And I couldn't even do that. I was I was so nervous. But once we got talking, it made it a little bit easier. And from that interview, I was able to travel to Sunnybrook Hospital in Toronto, one of the largest veteran hospitals, obviously in Canada, but especially in the Toronto area, and ended up meeting, you know, probably 20 veterans within a couple weeks. You know, met some incredible individuals that, yeah, served in all sorts of different theaters. One of the more kind of interesting ones that came out of that particular trip was a veteran actually from Saskatchewan. He was one of the sort of first veterans that, you know, I interviewed from, you know, kind of the rural area in Canada there. Mainly, it was just mainly city people from here in Ontario, and the kind of different small towns there. But it was a great journey, and I want to show a video clip of that veteran here, if it will let me this time. Let's see. And if there's any questions, again, feel free to put it in the chat there, but more than happy to answer those. But I'll pull up this video clip so you can hear from this veteran. And again, he was born in, I think we were talking before we actually joined, he was actually born in Hubbard, Saskatchewan, which from my understanding, it's a very, very small village town. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard of heard of that town or that village there, but that's where Nick Barisco is the veteran's name that I'll be able to show the video clip here.
Our long-range depth bomb-carrying B-24s were the answer. The ultimate workhorse of our counterattack on the U-boats was the radar-equipped Liberator. These land-based planes were matched against a sneaking killer. The enemy operated almost unimpeded along the vital shipping lanes. Plenty of good hunting. First for them, but after May 1943, for us. Most of us in the 1st Bomber Command and later in the 25 squadrons of the Anti-Submarine Command patrolled wide areas ahead of the convoys. On the deck, we searched immense stretches of the Atlantic hunting for Nazi periscopes. Hitler's subcrews crash dived. Our exploding bombs were clearing the North Atlantic of the Nazi U-boat threat.
We had one very dreadful experience. We used to have to carry bombs. They were homing bombs. One Sunday morning we were out, and all of a sudden, we're only 150 feet off the water, and the bombs were dropped. We had all our bombs were dropped. They made a mistake. Somebody had made a mistake somewhere, and instead of just opening the doors and dropping one bomb at a time, all of the bombs were dropped because we were about to crash. Our plane was losing altitude. Okay, so we started to fly up higher after that, and when we came back to Dartmouth, our bomb. You see, the bomb doors would go like this. They'd be under the aircraft, and then they'd go like that. Okay, they'd roll. And I was there when that happened. It was something you thought about after. When it happens, you don't think about it too much.
What was going through your mind? Were you scared? I mean,
yes, I was scared.
So what I started to find after I started interviewing, my 50th veteran, that was kind of a turning point. This was back in 2024. So I've been kind of doing it on my own for, about 3 years now, just reaching out to legions, reaching out to different organizations, reaching out to, different people. And I started to, again, post them on social media, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram. And what I started to find is people that were watching the videos sometimes would email me or message me and saying, well, my great grandfather, or my mother, or my cousin, my niece, whatever it is, all these people started messaging me saying, do you want to speak with them? And again, a turning point is when I started connecting with local high schools. I currently work with a few different high schools out of Toronto, and I interview veterans sometimes with high school students or with high school teachers. And again, all of the footage, all of the information is all donated right into the classrooms. Again, as I was interviewing veterans, I was almost embarrassed in a way of how little I knew, because again, growing up especially in Ontario and the Toronto area, maybe it's different in other areas, but we only had one history class in high school, and there wasn't really much, not even just about World War II, but about these different eras or these different different conflicts or different wars. I only knew about what the Korean War was when I met my first Korean War veteran in London, Ontario at the time. And I frankly asked him, I said, I don't know what the Korean War is, sir. I have to apologize, but can you tell me about it? What did you experience? What did you see? And it was a pretty incredible story. He joined up at 16 years old and was pretty incredible to hear and see. And then again, more going back to the global veteran story side, how it kind of got its name. I started interviewing veterans from other countries, but using Zoom as kind of a tool to be able to do that. I interviewed my first veteran outside of Canada is when I started doing American veterans. But then I started, okay, well, I want to branch out even more. I want to learn more about, the Commonwealth. So I started interviewing veterans from India, from Australia. This is a World War II veteran all the way in Melbourne, Australia. And he is currently the last living Spitfire pilot, Australian Spitfire pilot. And he just turned 101. So this is John McDonald, and a pretty incredible story. And I was able to be connected with him through an organization, I believe it's called Bomber Command of Australia. So that was a very, very lucky interview that I was able to do. And John was excited to share his story for the very first time. What I came to find is, especially because of my granddad, he never shared his story. Probably about 70 to 80% of the interviews that I do are with veterans from different eras of the Allied countries that have never been interviewed, that have never shared their story, not only to me or to researchers or newspapers, but sometimes to their own families as well. This is the very first time that they're opening up, that they are, again, telling what they experienced, what they saw, and what it was like back then. A lot of the questions I do like to ask, during the interviews is, what was your childhood like? What was it like growing up, in the Great Depression, the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s? These are fascinating years and fascinating parts of history. So that's what I started to do, is started kind of having the conversation, or having more of a casual conversation, and not just, what battle did you take part of? What, regiment? It's, those questions are certainly asked, but it's more about what you experience, what you, life advice. As I, sort of mentioned previously, I got married about 4 weeks ago. And I always like to ask veterans who have been married for a number of years, what is the secret to such a long marriage, or what is some advice that you would have? And they always have some great pieces of advice, stuff that I'll kind of carry with me for the rest of my life. But again, a lot of, never go to bed angry. Make sure you love each other every single day, and laugh every single day. I think that was one of the things that I always kind of take away. I find myself kind of a goofy individual. I like to smile, I like to laugh. So for me, it's, those are the things that I'll kind of bring into, kind of my marriage as well. Another thing that I started to do, and this started in 2024, the photo that you see on the screen there is Rex Arnett, who was a Canadian World War II veteran that, similar to my granddad, served in the Air Force, or the Airborne, moved back to Toronto and put the war behind him, got a job in sales, and had 2 kids, and never talked about his story. But I noticed that a lot of the communities, especially around Ontario, they have, around Remembrance Day, these banners that you would see on light posts, or, even hanging from different buildings. And I said, well, called my local Legion. I said, I have a veteran. I did this interview. Can we put up a banner for him? And he was beyond excited. It was a pretty cool thing to do. And this is a photo taken directly from the Richmond Hill newspaper from a couple of years ago, and has the QR code. So anyone walking by, and this is up for 1 month here in Toronto, anyone walking by can grab their phone. They can use their camera, scan this QR code right here. And actually, if you have your camera, if you have your phones on you right now, you're actually able to do that right now. You can pull out your phone and scan that QR code, and the full length interview of Rex will come up, and you'll be able to meet him and learn about his story. So for me, it was like, I sat down with these veterans, and I didn't want them just to be stories that I hear. I want them to be able to be shared with so many individuals, no matter where they are in the world as well. I talked about Australia, India, Poland, all of these kind of allied countries. I started interviewing veterans from, again, different cultures that I really wanted to kind of explore and learn about, that I'll kind of, really be able to sort of understand, and just kind of really ask some additional questions. One of my favorite ones from this past year. Oh, the QR code worked? Okay, that's great. One of my favorite stories from this past year was in West Africa. So this is about a 6-hour time difference from here in Toronto. And this was from a veteran who served with the Gold Coast Regiment. So this is again, a veteran from Ghana. And he had this incredible story of, joining at 17, and he actually fought the Japanese in Burma and India. So it was a pretty incredible story. He wrote a book, and is, I think, one of the few, if not one of the only veterans from Ghana, who is sort of left. And that was a pretty incredible experience to be able to show and just learn about a veteran, I mean, all the way in Africa. I started interviewing veterans. I'm thinking, okay, where are we? So we have North America here. What about South America? So then I started thinking to myself, what about those veterans over there? I'll share my screen again and ended up connecting with someone on Facebook who was a translator. So they spoke English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So I said, okay, I want to interview a veteran from Brazil. Do you have any veterans from Brazil? And he said, absolutely. So there was about a 2 or 3 hour time difference, and he ended up scheduling 2 veterans. This veteran just turned 104. And this is purely in Portuguese. So, but I think I have subtitles here. I might not, but anyways, this is Elmo Dinez, all the way in Brazil. Hopefully this can play for me. Maybe if I share it one more time. Here we go. Share with sound. Here we go.
Mo Dennis, one.
Oh, maybe not. I'll put the link in the chat there.
It was beginning to work there.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can play it. Oh, I can't hear it on my end. But anyways, I'll put that in the chat for you guys to hear. And then I started interviewing a lot of veterans, you know, from India. And this was an Indian veteran. Hopefully you guys can see that there. He was 101 years old. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after I interviewed him, he unfortunately passed away. So this is a story, a project that's a race against the clock from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. I don't think a lot of people know, I certainly didn't until a couple of years ago, that a lot of Canadians jumped the border and actually served and went to Vietnam. And there was I read last time, about 25 to even upwards of 40,000 Canadians that were in American uniforms that were fighting in Vietnam, but born and raised Canadian. And I thought that was pretty incredible. But this is the Indian veteran I want you to kind of see here. Hopefully you'll be able to play. So fingers crossed.
Jaswant, my full name is Hari Jaswant Singh.
And Mr. Singh, what is your birthday? When were you born?
I was born 19th of January 1924.
Wow.
And where were you born?
I was born in Dadia in Narawa, Pakistan.
Wow.
Now in Pakistan.
Well, Mr. Singh, thank you so much again for your time and for your service. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Oh, thank you.
And that was a pretty incredible interview. Again, his daughter ended up finding a video of mine, I guess, somewhere online, and ended up setting up the whole interview. And he was only about a 25-minute drive from where I am in Toronto. And hopefully I'm okay on time here, but I think I'll maybe share one last clip that I always do like to share. And it's of a World War II veteran. And I'm maybe going to ask everyone to take a guess in the chat here of how old you think this veteran is. And I'm going to pull up a photo and then I'll play the video shortly after. Hopefully I can find a good video. Here's a good photo of me here. So I'll share my screen for one last time, and then I guess we'll go on to questions in a little bit here if anyone has any questions here. And hopefully everyone can see my screen here. Okay, so you see me obviously I'm on the left-hand side here. And this is the World War II veteran, and I'll see if I don't know if I can open the chat while we're doing this here, but I'll see if we can get, how old do you think this veteran is, or what age do you think he is in this photo? Or yeah, everyone put your actually I can maybe see the chat here. I'll wait 20 seconds or so, and then I'll reveal I'll reveal the answer to everybody. I'll take a couple more, a couple more seconds. We'll put the Jeopardy music on. All righty. Okay, so let's see. We got 102, 104, 98, 102, 102, 100, 102. Okay, some pretty good guesses. But now I'm going to reveal the answer in just a second here and share my screen here. So this is Burdett Sisler out of Fort Erie, Ontario. And Burdett is, as the filming of that video in September of 2024, he is 109 years old.
First and last names are Burdett and Sisler, Sisler.
And what is your birthday? When were you born?
I was born April 14, 1915. That's 1915.
And so how old does that make you today?
I'm 109 years old last April.
And you'll be 110 next April, I guess.
That's right.
That is incredible. Well, thank you so much for your service, Burdett, and I really appreciate your time today. It was great getting to know you. Thank you so much again.
So 109 at the filming of that interview back in September of 2024, Burdett Sisler was 109 years old. So he was born April 15th, 1915. So it was pretty incredible. So I hope there's a couple questions for me, but I just want to, personally thank you so much again. I could probably talk for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. There's, again, almost 200 interviews that I've done and dozens and dozens of stories that I've been able to capture. So could keep you guys here all night, but I just want to thank you so much again for this opportunity to be able to share my project, share these incredible veteran stories, and again for listening. So I just want to thank you so much again for this opportunity, and happy to answer any questions that anyone has. And yeah,
There's a few for you in the chat, Zach. It's a couple of questions.
amazing.
One of them says, is it
yeah.
a deliberate decision only to interview Allied soldiers?
Yeah, it is, to be honest. I have been asked by actually a few German and a few Japanese. I have put those off for now. For myself, I've really been interested in only doing Allied veterans. I do work with a couple different, museums that have done, other of the Access powers. My personally, just because I've heard so many stories, from the Allied, yeah, I think I've just chosen not to do those interviews, only focused on the Allies. But that's a really good question.
And another one here, have you interviewed any Indigenous veterans like the code breakers or any POWs?
Yes, that's a great question. I was able to, very, very lucky, I was able to interview the last known First Nations or Indigenous veterans out here in Ontario. And I'll pull up his photo here. So this is Donald Smoke, and he was born in February of 1926. So he just recently celebrated his 100th birthday. A couple months ago, actually now. So I was very, very lucky to meet and interview this World War II veteran who was Indigenous, and yeah, very, very lucky to be able to do that. For the POWs, actually quite a few. I've been very lucky to interview not only from the Air Force, but the Army to the Navy. So lots of different POWs. That either they got shot down or they spent many years in a camp. And talking about the Korean War and the Vietnam War, there was a veteran in Arizona that I interviewed over Zoom, and he was a prisoner of war for 6 years. And so he had some incredible advice of how to keep your mind going. He was in I think he said about a 7x7, something like that. It was a very, very tight cell. And he was in there for, again, it was 5.5, almost 6 years. So that was pretty incredible to sort of listen as well. But yeah, a few Indigenous and a few POWs as well.
And we have another one from Michelle. Great presentation, Zach. My question is, did you do this all financially on your own, or did you apply for grants?
About 95% of what I do is all on my own. I've been very, very fortunate to have a few different donations here and there. I have very, very lucky that 5 of my friends are also CPAs. So they've always been kicking me to start a charity or a non-for-profit. So that is currently in the works. But as of today, 5 years, I've been traveling just basically all on my own dime. And again, I work with a local history teacher, so sometimes we drive together. But this is, again, sort of passion of love and a passion project that I've been able to, save up for and travel. And, I get the odd donation here and there from family members who I do interviews for. I don't necessarily ask for any financial, sort of benefit there. But yeah, some donations, but about 95% of all my interviews I've done over the last 5 years have been, yeah, basically all on my own.
Well, I know for one, you always hear that the veterans don't want to talk about their stories. They don't want to talk about what happened. So it really surprises me that there is so many that are willing to share with it now. And hopefully, you can get as many as you can before they're gone. But I really must commend you for doing this job and taking this project on and hearing these stories. So where can the person, we can go online, is it YouTube that you have all of these stories?
Absolutely. So I have a YouTube channel with every single veteran story as well. I also post them on Facebook, so different photos and full write-ups. And for convenience sake for everyone, I will put those couple links in the chat here so people can be able to easily access them. And as well, I have a website for people to reach out to me. If you know a veteran in your community, if I can't meet them in person, I'll certainly love to meet them over Zoom. But if they have, like I said, a story that they want to tell, I would more than happy to be able to share their story. And again, the best way to reach out to me is either on Facebook or, directly through my website, through the contact me section. I'll get an email and we'll be able to connect there. But yeah, I just put those, so the YouTube channel, my Facebook, and then my website sort of in the chat there for people to sort of look at. But thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
Anybody have any more questions for Zach?
I was just wondering if any of the veterans you interviewed expressed any bitterness about what happened to them and the whole experience.
That's a great question. Definitely. I think a lot of the veterans, especially who were POWs, that was another question that they asked, were pissed. I think they were very, very upset. And I think, to be very honest, I think that's one of the reasons why I haven't interviewed veterans from the Access Powers. It's very difficult, for me to kind of explain into words what these veterans have gone through, but you can see it, how they talk and through their eyes. And, being a prisoner of war for 8 months, a year, they are extremely bitter. I think time heals that, to be very honest. They certainly have gotten over certain things, but I think as they still hold some grudges, I think. And a lot of them went through, there's a World War II veteran who I interviewed, and one of my personal favorites to sort of tell, Jack C. Thomas. He was a tail gunner RCAF, got shot down during the Battle of Arnhem, and was a prisoner of war for almost a year. And I mean, incredible story. He unfortunately had to bail out of his plane. He broke a couple of bones in his foot and hurt his back, and had all these injuries. And, you know, again, went throughout the war. He, you know, got, you know, beat up by the Hitler Youth. And, you know, it was just sort of this whole kind of experience, but he put the war behind him and again, started a farm. But you could tell his interview was incredibly emotional. I mean, he cried a few times. And so I think a lot of them still carry the emotional weight of what they saw and what they experienced. And for me, it's always thanking them for what they did. And that's, you know, the reason why I'm doing these interviews. And but Jack was very humble man, very incredible. And actually his 103rd birthday is coming up in about a week. So I got to make sure to give him a call. That was him on his 100th birthday. But that's a great question. Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you. Thank you. I, as a former nurse, I remember taking care of a veteran in his home, and he was very, very bitter, to the point that he didn't allow DBA to help him in any way, and they could have done a multitude of things to make his circumstances better, but he didn't allow that to happen because of his feelings at that point. Yeah, it changed his life. It did. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing this, Zach. It's nice to have you here. You realize time is not on your side. Every day there's more and more veterans pass away. And there's several that lived right here in Moose Jaw that 20 years ago you could have done a marvelous interview. Of course, at the age of 3, I don't imagine you were capable of it. One that I remember particularly was a guy who was known as Spud Elliott, and he ran a service station here in town for like 30 or 40 years after the war.
Wow.
And during the war, he was on a joint U.S.-Canada force that was today's equivalent would be the Navy SEALs. And he carried business cards with him when he was in combat. And on each business card, there was a bullet and the words, "You're next." And he would drop these cards on the corpses of German soldiers.
Wow.
So people who tidied up the battlefields would see them.
Wow.
Incredible.
He raised a couple of kids, had a nice family, and he was a very friendly businessman. Right over there.
Incredible. And that's the same case. A lot of the veterans, like my granddad, you know, coming from London, England, he was in Africa, France, and Germany, jumped on D-Day, had 7 kids, immigrated to Canada in the 1970s, and worked as a bartender. He was a taught piano and worked as a radio technician and put the war behind him. So you would never know, and we still really don't know what he did, what he experienced, but we know he was in Africa and he went all the way through and met the Soviet Union in Germany. And it was, yeah, pretty incredible. But thank you for sharing that, Harold. I appreciate that.
I think there's some more in chat there, maybe.
Is there more in the chat?
Not,
Some
no.
thank yous. Let's see.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, Zach. I'm sure we just touched the surface. Appreciate your honesty and good nature under incredible circumstances. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jerry, for that comment. I appreciate that.
Well, I think we'll wind her up here. So thanks so much, Zach. That was a very thought-provoking and informative presentation. And we really do appreciate what you're doing and talking to the veterans. So thank you so much. And Deanne, thanks again for running the Zoom for us. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you. I'm going to leave it open for a little bit here in case people want to get some of Zach's information off of the chat here. If you don't have a chance yet, I'll give you a few minutes and then I'll close it.
Dennis Daniel says you look a lot like your grandfather.
Yeah.
And what an awesome project. Lorna says, thank you for sharing. And there's, yeah, lots of thank yous.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dennis. Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate that so much.
We'll have to check back with you next year and see how you're doing and how many more you got done.
Absolutely. And if you guys are doing anything for Remembrance Day, I'm happy to come back and do another chat to see what I've been up to. Or more happy to come back next year, whatever you guys like. But I know around Remembrance Day, I'll be doing a lot of work for sure. So let me know. I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Amazing. Just remember Global Veteran Stories by Zach Dunn. My website, YouTube channel. If you know a veteran in your area, would love to share their story. And thank you so much again, everyone, for listening, for taking the time, and for giving me this opportunity. It was a pleasure, and I hope to come back very soon.
Sounds good.
We're not having a meeting, Marge, are